Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another Thoughts by Jay Brown's topic. We're talking with Reds Rhetoric again about part two from Anti Ordinary, who I happen to see in the chat. And before I turn it over to Red, I would like to let Anti Ordinary know I'm still waiting. You made a comment, and I sent you my email. So if you want to talk about it, please email me. So, Reds, how have you been? How are things going?
Things are going good. I did get screwed over by clouds on my last rocket launch, which there was an explosion. So kind of irritated at that. But other than that, it's been great, man.
Yeah, I saw your tweet today about the claim against your other video being pulled back.
Oh,
So
geez.
glad to hear
Yeah,
that.
some random like record label, I don't know what they are, decided to claim music on my Falcon Heavy video that they do not own. So I tweeted at them, and they go, "Well, if it's wrong, we'll take it back." I go, "You don't understand. It should never have been claimed to begin with, because now I had to take my video down, because I'll be damned if you're going to make money off of my content." So, but luckily for me, this morning they released their claim. They acknowledged that, yeah, we were totally in the wrong on this. And now my video is back up. And I hope I never have this issue ever again. But going forward, I think I'm not going to put any music on any of my videos because it's just not worth the hassle anymore.
Yeah, it even now it's on your onus to every day check the audio library from YouTube to see if your music's still available.
Yeah. Well, even the audio library on YouTube has been hit. There was a guy who's known for making Kerbal Space Program videos,
Oh
and
yeah,
his videos were hit. Yeah, even though he used the supposedly safe songs that YouTube suggested. So, like, how in the hell is YouTube allowing this to happen? I don't know, but it is what it is, I guess. It's basically easier just to not even put any music on your videos at
yeah,
this point.
yep. So all right, so we're going to be talking about Annie Ordinary's part two video where she's talking about Steve being a rape apologist and claiming that you and Chesh use sexual assault victims as weapons. So,
Neat.
yeah. So I sat through and watched it. The first note that I want to talk about, and it is literally just a note, is that Demi is giving permission to Steve if Steve still has them, because this is based on her previous account that got deleted off of Twitter. If you want to know what was going on between the two of them that relates to the rape apologist claims, you can contact Steve, and she's given him his blessing to actually release the relevant tweets or DMs for that. So,
All right.
okay,
Then what I might do is just for a future note is I may ask Steve McRae for those DMs.
yep. Now again, like her, I don't know if once her account's deleted, those DMs, all her side of the DMs go away. I mean, I wouldn't think so, but you never know.
I don't know how that works, unfortunately. So I'll have to get in contact with Steve
Yep.
about that, but I will ask him after this is over.
All right, this first question is going to be kind of touchy, but I do want to give you a chance to respond to
Okay.
the claim is um, about the 608 mark. Demi remembers a Twitter thread that started out with by calling Steve a rape apologist, and then it devolved into you quote ruining a funeral. I, like many others here in the community, know what issues surround that funeral in question. If you want to talk about, by all means, go ahead. If not, I understand. So,
The funeral situation was me going to a funeral with a bunch of people who I really did not like for multiple reasons. I would rather not get into detail, but let's just say it was a shit show. It probably would have been better if I never went in the first place. In fact, I tried to get Steve McRae to go, and he said no, he wasn't going to do that. And he was the smart guy in that situation. So um, I've learned from that mistake.
yeah. Now, she also is talking about this thread as it had a video clip circulating around where Steve is quoted as saying he believes that the sex between Warden and his victim, I'm assuming this is from his 1985 conviction, was consensual. Are you
Mm.
aware of this thread? Do you know who started it, or where one could find it if they wanted to go dig it up?
I don't think it's a thread. I think he's referring, or I'm sorry, I'm Yeah, my apologies. I think she's referring to a video that is on my channel, which is an interview I did with Steve McRae after I posted my video, Fiona Robertson, Calumny and Obloquy, where Steve McRae says that he believes that Warden is an honorable man, that the sex was consensual, and so on. Um, so yeah, I am aware of the video in question. That video would be on my channel.
Yep. Now, any ordinaries in the chat, and I'm going to take the criticism here. Yes, I wasn't meaning that you said that Red ruined the funeral. I was quoting directly from your video what you said in relation to what people were telling you. That is my fault for not clarifying that it was not you. So I'm sorry. Let's see here. Now, because the first half of this video is mostly about Steve, I was trying not to pick questions from there that I think would um, come at you sideways, so to speak, here, because
Mhm.
you can't really speak for Steve. Steve needs to speak for Steve on this stuff. But
Sure.
what I was
Any,
gonna, oh, go ahead.
anything that I say, just a full disclaimer, anything that I say about Steve's opinion is what I've heard. Opinions change, perspectives change. So if you really want the steak and potatoes, go to Steve. Try not to come at him sideways, and maybe he'll talk to you. But
Yeah,
anyway, now that the disclaimer is out there, yeah,
yeah. So my one question for the people who are claiming that Steve is a rape apologist and just people in general is, can and does law enforcement, lawyers, courts, and the victims themselves make mistakes when convicting somebody of any crime, regardless whether it's rape, just any crime? Is that a possibility?
yes, of course.
Okay.
People make mistakes. The courts make mistakes. The police are sometimes biased in these situations, and the simple fact is that the courts are not infallible.
Mm,
They make mistakes all the time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be uh, organizations out there such as the Innocence Project, which works day and night to correct those mistakes that have been made in the court of law.
which I'm just showing the first page of their all cases from the innocentproject.org
Mm,
website itself. You can see some of
yeah,
these people have served some serious time, and it's not to say that all rape claims, all rape accusations are false. A lot of these
no,
people who served these times were back before DNA was considered a valuable tool for evidence for exonerating people or convicting people. So we got to caveat it with that. However, with that said, I think it is a worthy question to ask because it's not just it's not just about whether or not somebody's convicted. It's about was the work done properly. Now I've seen Nate Brody's video where he talks to the Pasadena, or the video where he has the Pasadena police chief talking. As far as Warden's concerned, my opinion, the guy was convicted. He's under indictment again. Let's see what bears out. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's innocent or guilty until I see the court case. So,
hmm I will say this, and Steve McRae also shares this opinion. He is guilty on the books,
yes.
and that is not in contention at all. We also know he's under indictment for um, inappropriate, let's call it that,
Yeah.
contact with children as well.
Yeah.
So that's also a well-known fact at this point.
Yep. So, just want to get that all out there. Finally, we're getting to the point where she starts talking about what defines a rape apologist. And she uses the definition of rape apology from the Urban Dictionary. I don't know if she tried looking at other sources for like other
Mm,
dictionary sources. I went to Merriam-Webster Dictionary and they don't have a definition for that per se, but they do have a definition for apologetics, which is the systematic argumentative discourse in defense as a doctrine. And you could throw rape in front of it and kind of get the point of it's a systematic argument of discourse
yeah,
against in defense of rape, which
yeah.
but
The
oh, go ahead.
oh no, no. By all means, continue.
I was just gonna say then I have the Urban Dictionary definition up here. A person who defends the act of rape, usually claiming that the rape is not serious a crime or that people need not give consent to sex. And
Yeah,
then informally, any person who suggests that women may be able to take precautions to reduce their chances of being raped, such as carrying concealed weapons for self-defense or avoiding places where crime is likely while alone at night. And from the definitions that provided, I don't see how Steve falls into that classification. I'm still doing my
Yeah,
research on it, but from what I've seen to date, nothing shows that.
the definition that I used in my original video, Fiona Robertson, Calumny and Obloquy, is a rape apologist is a person who defends acts of rape. A rape apologist is a person who also claims that rape is not a serious crime or that people do not need to give consent to sex. Rape apology, also from Rational Wiki, whether or not you think them or not, is an umbrella term for any argument that suggests that rape is infrequent, misreported, overreported, not a big deal, or excusable in some situations. And I'm going to make the assertion, the strong assertion, that Steve McRae doesn't fall under any of these definitions. Steve McRae is not saying that it is infrequent. Steve McRae is not saying that the rape was misreported. He's not making a knowledge claim in any of these things, including the Warden case. Overreported, absolutely not. Not that big of a deal, absolutely not again. Steve McRae is also of the opinion in the definition that I used in my original one that, according to my definition, he would also not be a rape apologist. A rape apologist is a person who defends acts of rape. Steve McRae is of the opinion that rape is a deplorable fucking act. A rape apologist is a person who also claimed that rape is not a serious crime. Steve McRae thinks that rape is a serious crime and that people do not need to give consent to sex. Steve McRae is of the opinion that people do need to give consent to sex. Otherwise, you're not supposed to have sex with them. So in both of these definitions, Steve McRae does not fall underneath this umbrella term of rape apologist or engaging in rape apologetics. And just to kind of expound on that, the question here surrounding that one word, consent is the big part of both definitions. If you try to justify why sex occurred when consent wasn't given, then what we have are excuses, and excuses that make you a rape apologist. Something like, well, she took me to her room. She was dressed a certain way. Well, I didn't hear an audible no. So on, shit like that. Steve McRae is not doing that. Steve McRae believes, or at least suspects, that legitimate consent was given. That isn't an excuse. That is an opinion or a suspicion that may or may not be accurate. And Steve McRae has defined it as such, is that it may or may not be accurate because he doesn't know. At the end of the day, he doesn't know. He's simply leaning a certain way. And if that still makes Steve McRae a rape apologist, then everyone who believed and defended Brian Banks is also a rape apologist by that same definition. They were all leaning in the direction that Brian Banks is innocent. And they actually worked to say, okay, well, let's see what we can get, until they got a full-blown confession that the entire thing was made up by the supposed victim. So if Steve McRae is a rape apologist by that definition, then the entirety of the Innocence Project, they're full of rape apologists. The people and the lawyers who defended Brian Banks, they're also rape apologists. And I'm pretty sure that every single one of them would greatly disagree with their use of the definition.
So, Anti Ordinary is making her, making her statements in the chat here, and her latest one is he is literally claiming that she wasn't raped. What evidence does he have to defend a convicted serial rapist, and why are you defending him?
Steve McRae is not making the claim that someone wasn't raped. This is where listening becomes a very important skill. In the debate, or not a debate, in a hangout on the Elusive channel when Scientist First was quite frankly getting his ass kicked, Steve McRae said multiple times, was I there? Was I actually there watching this event took place? No, I wasn't. So how could I know? How could I know if this event actually took place? How could I know who's telling the truth and who's full of shit? Steve McRae is not making any knowledge claims to the Warden case. Steve McRae is simply leaning in a certain way based on what I would say is the limited of information that he was told. leaning a certain way is perfectly fine. And I am defending his right to lean a certain way without being demonized for it. You can have an unpopular opinion, all right? People have unpopular opinions all the fucking time. But at the end of the day, Steve McRae said that if it is shown to him in a way that is convincing for him that Warden is this gigantic piece of human garbage, which most people seem to believe, then Steve McRae is more than happy to adjust accordingly. Because I don't know what you guys think, but Steve McRae is not the best buddy of Warden. He interviewed the guy once about police auditing.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think the whole detractors from Steve are hanging up on this situation is the fact that
Mm-hmm.
he would platform somebody who was there to talk about one topic and one topic alone, and that
Mm-hmm.
was police auditing, First Amendment auditing of people's rights when interacting with the police and filming it. Now, should Steve have done more due diligence in who he brought on? Sure, one could argue that. One could be like, especially if when he even came out, Steve came out and said that Warden said, "Hey, I have this group of people following me. You know, just be careful. They're going to try to attack you." Um, that's one of those things. It's like he could have done a little bit more research. Now he could have done that and still chose to put him on because again he
Mm-hmm.
was talking about one specific topic and one specific topic only. Um,
Exactly. He was not bringing up the subject of rape or past convictions. It was literally about one thing, and that was police auditing.
so
That's it.
yeah,
Police auditing. That's it. Not making any claims whether or not this crime actually did or did not happen. Steve McRae is leaning a certain way, but not making any truth claims. He was very clear about that to Science First on the Elusive channel. Go there and see for yourself if you don't believe me. Steve McRae said, "Let me ask you a question. Was I there?" And Science First was like, "What? Was I there? Was I there to see this?"
yes, and Nate. By the way, Nate Brody's in the chat too. Steve,
Yippee.
yeah, Steve said it was consensual based on the knowledge that he had. So why vilify him on that at
Nope,
all?
nope. Hang on. This is where, again, I say listening becomes a very important skill. Because in my original Hangout, at the very beginning, right after the Fiona Robertson calumny and an obloquy video, Steve McRae says, and I quote, "I am not making that a knowledge claim." It's pretty funny to me how that quote has been missing from every single anti-Steve video that has been made thus far on the subject of rape apology.
So, all right. Let's move on to where she starts talking about last week when we did our stream. She
Okay.
now I was trying to form a question off of this, starting at the 30-minute 44 seconds. She plays where you say that you're not going to call it sexual assault, and then she just for 7 minutes just constantly jumps back and forth between you and Chesh, and saying that it was part of a ploy to harm Fiona's reputation, to make Fiona look bad. What are what are your thoughts on that? Was it a planned, a coordinated attack, so to speak? It's the way she's kind of framing it, because her quote on it was at the end of all of that was it was a ploy to fuck up Fiona.
A ploy to fuck. I don't know what ploy she's referring to. You're going to have to talk to Cheshire about that, but that wasn't my intention. See, my reason for bringing it up was because there was hypocrisy being said here, and I was sick and tired of that hypocrisy being said. And when I brought it up, I did it to make sure that it was known that this idea that Steve McRae was engaged in this banter and it was considered not cool or wrong or too sexually explicit for the females that he was talking to, which by the way, they had his permission to do, that Fiona has no right to stand on when it comes to that subject alone, or has no moral high ground to stand on when it comes to that subject alone. That subject had nothing to do with rape apologetics. Nothing. absolutely nothing to do with rape apologetics.
So let me ask this question of the chat. Regardless of the impending indictment of Warden, he served his time. He did his service to society. Should he be vilified for all time and not allowed to do anything publicly ever again?
Mhm.
Because I know Nate is a lawyer. If I remember correctly, he's a prosecutor in New York. I would think that of him, of all people, would understand that a, a convict who serves his time should be given an opportunity, should be given a chance to redeem himself. Now, like I said, I'm going off of the information that Steve had at the time, where he knew of the conviction in '85, and that was it. Is my understanding from the streams that he talked about. And I asked him a clarifying question earlier: when you were sitting down to talk to Warden, did he bring up this pending indictment? So the lack of information, you can make a reasonable justification that he didn't, that he is trying to reform himself, and that using this News Now Houston to do First Amendment auditing is a way of trying to turn his life around.
Mhm.
Yes, it very well can be seen as a bias for Warden to be doing First Amendment auditing. But the thing is, should we should we just cast aside anybody who's convicted of a felony in society? That's what I want to know.
Mhm. All
We
right.
ex-
Let's.
well, critical thinker. Here's the problem: the U.S. prison system isn't about remorseful and apologizing for people's actions. They want to keep people in the system because they make money because it's privatized. So why would we want to help these people in the prison system? That's the thing.
Mhm. See, and Nate Brody is making the same mistake that scientists first made. All the evidence. This is why women are afraid to come forward because of guys like this. Scientists first tried to say the same rhetoric, and guess what? Not one, not two, but three victims of rape told people like you, Nate, to stop speaking for them. You do not speak for them. In fact, they are actively requesting that you stop speaking for them. Have you ever considered that maybe you're the one in the wrong here?
Well, here's the thing. All seeing donut. Anybody who would come into my house that I would invite, I would know first before I invite them in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and defend Warden at all. What I'm trying to say is that in general principle, we should be at least letting people have some sort of benefit of knowledge that yes, you have done something wrong in the past. You're trying to correct it now. Let's give you the benefit of doubt. Oh, you have this now pending? Okay, now I'm not going to rescind that charity and be like, no, I don't want to deal with that. That seems to be that's what Steve's doing. That seems to me what Reds has been trying to say Steve is doing. But you don't. But you guys are going to sit here and attack us and not listen to what we're saying. That's fine.
And,
Go ahead and not listen to us. That is perfectly fine. But you don't need to sit here and come into everybody's chat. You don't need to sit here and come into everybody's live streams, comment sections, or anything like that and keep hammering the issue. Just be done with it. Be done with
don't
the
worry,
goddamn drama.
don't worry. They'll have their opportunity, but there is there is a whole bunch of rhetoric going on around, and I understand this. And by the way, can we also make this clear that rape is not a fun subject to talk about?
Not at all. I
Can we
have
just
friends who are rape victims. I don't like
because
talking about it. And no,
yeah.
Nate, I will talk to you one on one when I'm ready to talk to you. Just like I said with Anti Ordinary.
Mhm.
I'm giving Reds
And
his chance to talk about Anti Ordinary's video. I'll give you a chance to talk to me when I'm ready to. So,
mhm. So, let's move on to the next question.
yep. That was actually the last question I had.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well,
any final thoughts?
absolutely. So, what we're going to be doing here, or at least what I'm going to be doing here, is Anti-Ordinary wanted to make the positive assertion that Steve McRae is a rape apologist. And also wanted to go on a different platform, not sure which one, and call out Cheshire to have a conversation with Anti-Ordinary. Despite the rhetoric out there, I am confident in the fact that there is actually nothing of substance that points to Steve McRae being a rape apologist. Nothing of substance. And apparently, Anti-Ordinary is perfectly okay with calling out Cheshire. She's perfectly okay with doing call-outs. So I'm going to do one of my own. Anti-Ordinary, I hereby challenge you officially to a debate on modern day debates on the subject on whether or not Steve McRae is or is not a rape apologist. And I hope that you can bring some actual evidence to this debate. Two conditions. One, it must be done on modern day debates, as he's not a friend of mine, and I believe he will be neutral in all of this. The second condition is that all proceeds, all super chats for this debate will go to the Innocence Project, a 501c3 nonprofit legal organization that is committed to exonerating wrongfully convicted people through the use of DNA testing. They are also committed to reforming the criminal justice system to prevent future injustice. And as of November 17th, 2019, the Innocence Project has worked on over 189 successful DNA-based exonerations. That is 189 examples of the courts not being infallible. In my last debate regarding this subject, we took the opportunity to donate to a charity that sought to help and support victims of rape and sexual assault. And while I may have my disagreements with Science First, I do still thank them to this day for that. For this go around, I want us all to be an advocate for the innocent and support those who are seeking the release of the wrongfully convicted. This entire episode has been a shit flinging contest, with the main question being who can fling their shit the furthest. Might as well get some good out of this, I think. I don't care how much you hate Steve. Personally, I think it's rather disgusting that you are paying more attention to Steve than the guy who you think is literally the reincarnation of Satan himself. But if you have the evidence to put forward to show that Steve McRae is indeed a rape apologist and not define others as rape apologists that you wouldn't normally define that way while you're doing it, then bring it the fuck on. Because once everyone is a rape apologist, nobody is.
Yep. And Nate is accepting your debate. Just to let you know.
Cool.
So go ahead and contact Modern Day Debates and get that set up. We can enjoy it. I will do my deep dive into this, like I just said in the chat. I have Heretics videos up. I have Nate Brody's videos up for me to review. And I'll put out my own video on this subject. I don't like the idea of people using rape victims as weapons. I don't like the idea of people falsely accusing people.
Heretic, I won't need to bring any evidence for why News Now Houston is innocent because that was never a fucking claim, you dumbass. Exactly. Now do you understand why no one takes you seriously? Because you literally make shit up as you go. Fucking retard.
And yeah, and I totally lost my train of thought now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's all right. It's just one of those things. It's we all have to hear all sides of the stories, but at the same time, you can't just take. Oh, I know where I was going. Not saying that this is the case with the News Now Houston Warden guy at all, but there are cases like you said, the Innocence Project, Brian Blade, Brian Banks, um, or Blades. Blades. I can't remember. I can never remember the two. Anyways, but there was also the entire Duke lacrosse team as well. Should we actually blindly trust everybody? No. What? And I understand that it is hard for women. It is hard for men that are raped too to go get the test done. Trust me, I understand that. I have a best friend that I had to physically pick up and take her in just because she didn't want to. So, but
It's a shitty situation all
it
the way
is,
around.
it is, and we shouldn't be dealing with this. What we should be talking about is why flat earthers are idiots. So,
Why flat earthers are idiots, why people think Nibiru is a thing, chemtrailers, anti-vaxxers, people who think that jelly juice will actually regrow limbs.
yep. Critical thinker. I will ask Reds that, and I will ask Chesh too. Why do you why were you why were you endorsing Chesh's false allegations against Fiona?
Because they're not false.
It's just the way.
Again,
Go ahead.
she can go ahead and label it whatever she wants, but it was not false. I was there. I experienced it. So go ahead, call me a liar if you want, but I want you to look at what what you're doing right now, which is, oh, you're not just believing the victim. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Who got forced upon in that case? Oh yeah, me. What does that make me? And who are you choosing to not believe? It's amazing how the double standard is so transparent.
So with that,
Fiona,
oh, go ahead.
Fiona did some shit that made me uncomfortable. That's all I said. If you guys can't tolerate that, well, I gotta say I'm not very impressed with you guys right now.
And with that, we're out of here. And like always, I'll leave my videos up. So take care, everybody.